All right, check, check. Hello, everyone. Good to see you here. My name is Paul Tran. I'm going to dive into brushes and many different ways you could be using them. Brushes across multiple apps, from Illustrator to Photoshop to Fresco, kind of like when to use which one, and kind of their differences and stuff like that. So that is the plan. So feel free to say hello. Would love to hear from you. Like that. Cool. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and get this party started. There we go. Victor, I at least need one person in chat so I know I'm not talking to myself, because otherwise it gets a little weird. So thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to dive right into this. You can see right over here. There we go. Familia, Amir, Irene, hello, Ash as well. Very cool. It's raining here in Colorado today. Not quite snow like this picture shows. It's more like rain. So let's get into this. Cool. Fantastic. You can see kind of what I have going on here. And this is just one example. I want to show you all the different examples I have of brushes, because right in here I decided to, use a fun little like scatter brush for these snowflakes, right? But also I want to talk about brushes in Illustrator as well. And I showed this yesterday on the Illustrator channel, how you can easily make brushes, and not only that, kind of switch them up. This is the power of Illustrator, the fact that I can change these into anything that I want, right? Even here, this is green, happens to be the brush settings in here, saying, hey, you know what? Tint and shade this pattern brush based on the color in the stroke. So I can change that to, let's go like a yellow. There you go. You have your yellow, okay? Super fun to work with. You get the idea. The power of Illustrator's brushes is that they are the most flexible, okay? Because I can change this line after the fact, and not only change the color, but also change the position and all that fun stuff as I can modify this curve. You get the idea, okay? Gotta love Illustrator. So Wilder, good to see you, buddy. I know you know about brushes and things. Again, this is just one example. I have a lot of examples of brushes in Illustrator, so make sure you're checking out the Illustrator Facebook page. We can get in one. Here's city brush patterns, and the power of Illustrator's brushes is you can control them, right? Not only the color, but obviously the size, the shape, and even the curvature of it. So it could be thick and thin, things like that. You get the idea. Okay. So let me know if you have questions. Gotta love Illustrator. Looks like Melanie does as well. Hello, Miss Akip from Kansas. Fantastic. And yeah, so let me kind of go into this. But also there is a new tool as well that you may or may not be aware of. Again, I want to fix this little curve right here. Let's get rid of that. Like that. Grab that, pull that through. This is fun. Okay. We also have tools like Fresco. Not only Fresco, let's get into Fresco right here, but we also have Capture, allowing you to create brushes. So I want to talk about like the differences and why you'd use each one. Okay, so hopefully that works for you. Quite frankly, the power of Fresco, Adobe Fresco, which is an iPad app, and for Windows Surface devices as well. But what they give you the ability to do is just kind of select a color. They have live brushes, which are really fun. So I'm going to select this Watercolor Wash Soft. Okay, pretty large brush. And provided I have a mask on this. But right in here, I'm just going to start. Oop, let's make sure I pick the right brush. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. I'm just painting with that Watercolor Wash Soft. And it looks like, of course, watercolor, right? Keep in mind I have a mask in there. That's what's making it look cool, right? I'll change this to maybe slightly different color right here in the center, right? And you get that blending, which is super nice. Hopefully that's coming across in this live stream, because I think it's pretty cool, right? Adding a little bit back there, some other little recent colors. Some other like petals back there like so. You get the idea. Okay, super fun what you can do with when it comes to Fresco. But it's these live brushes in here is where a lot of that power comes from. So we want to use Fresco if we want to, yeah, Peter's like, wow, yeah, that's the correct response. Even if I get into the oil, I'll get an oil paint detail. Let's pick just a nice brown. Let's zoom in here. Let's give it the stem. Let's undo that, make that a little larger. Kind of draw that out like that. Right, and then I'll pick a yellow to kind of give that highlight next to it. Maybe those tips right there. You can see that looks like oil right there. Okay, so that's the power of Fresco, right? Creating something cool kind of like that. Here's actually my final. Let's actually turn those off, turn on this. There was the final that I produced. I even used some additional brushes in here because you have dry media effects, inking, lettering, rakes, all sorts of things, right, that you can use, which is super cool. So this is great if you want expressive brushes, use Fresco. Okay, we also know on the desktop we have brushes as well. But not only that, you could load up additional brushes into Fresco. Just click plus, get more brushes, or import from files, and that's what I'm doing right here. I have loaded up a bunch of concept brushes right in here, so I can pick Clouds Chunky, for instance. But you can add additional brushes to Fresco, to Photoshop, even to Illustrator. So all of the apps you can add additional brushes. Okay, this is the cloud brush that I'm kind of putting in the background. Okay, so that's just a concept brush compliments of Kyle Webster. Okay. That's pretty cool, but we can make our own. Rather than downloading them from someplace else, we can make our own using doing it a couple different ways. I want to show you, we have Adobe Capture. Adobe Capture will allow you to create brushes. This is a really fun brush. Look at this. This is actually a brush, by the way, I'm just previewing it, that is made for Sketch, Adobe Photoshop Sketch. So that's what it's made for. I have this stretchiness. This came from an image. Yes, Melanie, Fresco also has layers. And by the way, I just saved that as a cloud document and I open it up in Photoshop, just so you know. Turn the volume down a little bit. Sorry if my voice was a little hot. But this is really cool. It's this stretchy look. I can say, hey, you know what? Go ahead and tile the middle, right? Or make it stretchy, and then we have some black and white ones. Okay, so these are only supported in Adobe Photoshop Sketch. Our hope is to have this sort of flexibility in Fresco. Okay, but what I can do, just kind of start from the top, just so you know. Let's close that. Let's discard changes. Let's go back. Let's just go. Let's create a new brush from an image. So I'm going to create a brand new brush. Here's just from an image. This is trippy because I actually painted this in Fresco, and I said, hey, you know what? Let's turn that into a brush. Rather than me having to repaint these flowers this many times, let's just go ahead and make this a brush. I'm showing what's transparent, right? Hit that checkbox. And there we have, right in here, this brush. And it looks a little crazy. I could crop it. I can go to the settings. I can change the size. I could space it out more. Right, and now we have that spacing of all of those flowers. Why is it black and white? Because black and white, the color is going to be controlled from Fresco or Photoshop, right? So I can see how that comes through, and I can adjust the scatter. Maybe make it a little less scattered. I want to make it look like it's somewhat connected, kind of like that, okay? So that looks pretty good. Yeah, that all looks great. Hit save. What do? We're going to call it Flower 5. We're going to save it in the Nature CC library. Okay, it's saved there. Let's go back into Fresco. Go to just a new document. Scrolling down. Awesome, Melanie. Thanks for hanging out with me, everyone. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day. And yeah, it's treating you well, and you're treating people that you come into contact with well, and you're doing great. Okay, so right in here, right down here, library brushes. What did I say? Nature is where it is. There it is, flower 5. It's loaded in, and now I can start to paint with it. In fact, let's make this brush larger. Let's make the color darker, and now you can see those flowers like so. Okay, I would do this for like leaves, for instance. This makes a great background, by the way. But I'll do this for leaves. I've done this a couple times. Let's go into my miscellaneous. These are all the brushes that I've created. Hearts, foliage. There's some nice foliage as well. Change this to green, and again, it's just working smarter, not necessarily harder, right? We get how that looks. So this is what I could have used the background for, that one flower that I just painted, okay? But we've created it in Capture. We've used it in Fresco. We could do the same thing on the desktop. In fact, I'm going to shift gears, and I'll even show you Melanie as well. This wax begonia copy, that's the one we painted. Remember that. We'll go back to my desktop and Photoshop, File, Open. We'll go to Cloud Docs. Let's get this iPad out of the way. And here we have it, our wax begonia copy, right? So click on that, and we'll see that load in a second. And I'm going to show you, yes, Melanie, that was Adobe Capture that I was using. So now what I want to do is I want to show you kind of the power of Photoshop, and your goal is to know like when to use which brush, okay? So if I want to be really expressive and just paint, I typically use Fresco. I'll sometimes use Capture to create brushes, but I could also create brushes directly in Photoshop. So here it is. This is for Melanie. You could see all these fun layers right over here that I created, okay? So those are all the layers. From there, I can actually, since that's so beautiful, I could do so many things. I'm going to lose my mind here in a sec. A lot of times I will actually put that in my CC library. It's right in here. It's a painted asset. So I'll just drop that right in there like so. Save that for later. So begonia. But I want to go beyond that, right? So I'm going to go beyond this really fast. Shrink this down, right? You get it. Zoop. Make that smaller. Maybe I actually want to take this. Let's just try this. Let's select it. Cancel. Wait for it. Take all this stuff. Merge them together. So I have this one flower, by the way. So I could actually do the same thing in Photoshop, okay? But I want to do it differently because you don't need to see me do the exact same thing again. What I actually want to do is I want to change the color of the background because I'm going to make a snowy scene, okay? And this is what I like. I have this flower. You get it. I was going to make a flower brush, but let's go beyond that. Let's go into what we have here. Let's take some snowflakes, for instance. Right, and with these snowflakes, we can turn them into brushes as well. So, grabbing, I don't know, this one seems pretty good. Right here, taking that one. And what we want to do is we're going to define a brush preset, snowflake 5. Right, and there's my snowflake. So, and actually what I could do is I could actually cut, this is what I want to do. I want to cut this. Hold on, wait for it. I'm going to take this, cut it, paste it. Usually I make sure it's on its own layer, and then I'll just do command click on that layer, and it will just select that object. And then I'll define it as a brush. There we are. There's my brush. Turning that off, new layer. This is why I want to use Photoshop, because I can go into, first off, here's my brushes. Here's my flake that I just made, which let's actually just grab this one right here. Here's the snowflake that I have just made, okay, right here. Let's check the, what is happening? What am I missing? Wait for it. Brush tool, white. Okay, so it is coming through. Ah, too many settings with that one. All right, so we can see it right here. So the short of it is, and I'm glad this came up. So grow, there typically will be settings in here that you may have messed with, and I messed with a lot of them. First off, let's look at the brush. This is the brush that we made, okay? So what are we doing? We have a size jitter that's happening. So this gets to be pretty fun, right? So boom, 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 I can place snowflakes and be very strategic about where I place those. Or what I can do is I can adjust the size. So each time I click, it's gonna be a different size. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to work on the scattering, right? So rather than it be linear, let's turn off the scattering initially. Rather than it be linear, I'm going to adjust the scatter. So it's going to obviously blanket the area. And that's exactly what I want. I want to be able to blanket the area with these. I'm going to stretch it out some more. I'm going to maybe adjust the count. And then I want to get into something else. Could do a couple things in here. Dual brush. Okay, so this is the power of Photoshop's brushes. You have all of these fun controls that you can play with, right? So right in here, I can say, hey, you know what? Make this a dual brush as well. And then I can pick that other snowflake that I was using. Wait for it. Zoom out. Dual brush. Scrolling down. And I'm going to use this one right here. So now I'm using two different types of snowflakes, because what they say is like no two snowflakes are the same. But I'm now using two different snowflakes. It's going to bounce between those two. You get the preview right down here, and you'll be able to see a couple of them, although it might be kind of hard to tell. From there, we have scattering. We have the shape dynamics. Let's go back out. Let's adjust that scattering a little bit more. There we have it. Okay, another thing I want to point out is color dynamics. Say, for instance, I want to have different colored snowflakes. I'll go into color dynamics. So I can have it bounce between the purity. I can do a number of things. I have a lot of this set to 0, but I can bounce between the foreground and the background. Okay, so in the background, I could have maybe a darker blue. This is just going to make it look a little bit more dynamic. And let me take down brightness jitter a little bit more and put the purity at 100. There we go. So now you start to see how you can sort of get a blanket of snowflakes in this case for whatever scene that you're making. As you can see right here, even if I open up this final file, let's do that really fast. Wait for it. This is one I just posted to Instagram today, and you can kind of see how this was put together. I really just made two brushes in Photoshop, right? And if we take a look right in here under snow, you could see all of those. In fact, let's do this. Boom, click, awesome. New feature in Photoshop, you can hold down the Option key and click on that layer and it will zoom to that content. You see this snow, that's what I have. It's like these snowflakes that I've strategically kind of scattered, but then placed them in certain spots. I've also added this other layer with more snow that covers the whole thing. You can see all that snow there. And then a third layer as well that has everything, right? So hopefully that makes sense. That's usually what I'll do. It's like, okay, I'll use Photoshop if I want to use any of these properties for my brush, like being able to scatter or to control the color dynamics as well as I paint that in, and maybe we could do this from scratch. right? You can paint in those snowflakes for this scene, and it looks like you did a lot of work when it really wasn't that difficult, right? Even though I have this bouncing between those two different colors, what I'll sometimes do is I'll go in here and I'll play with the layer blend mode. So I can say, hey, you know what, knock out all that darker color, make it transparent. And look what you get here. Changing that to color dodge, you get this nice look right over here. So all those dark colors just allow that background that you can see through it, allows it to pop, right? Just like that. And that looks pretty cool as well. Cool. So that's what I would use. Chances are if I cared to for this lettering, I could have also used Illustrator, like I said before, coming in here, getting rid of that. N for pencil. There's C. Let's pick this one. C for chill, right? And this is nice because I have full control over the thickness of this and how it looks. You get the idea. Even for this one, selecting this one more time, clicking back, making this one straight since I have that sort of brush. And I can start to write chill. You get the idea. Cool. Fantastic. That's all I wanted to show you. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, just wanted to show you the different ways to make brushes and when to use which ones. If you want a lot of control, you're going to use Illustrator. If you want to be really expressive, then I would use something like Fresco, right, allowing you to paint. And then if you just want a lot of power with your brushes, being able to control the different aspects of it, I would use Photoshop, because Photoshop gives you all of these settings right over here as I select a brush, all of these settings that just aren't in Photoshop or Fresco, right? And we didn't even get to half of these. So anyways, pretty cool. Hopefully you appreciated this. Feel free to check out on Instagram and stuff this work. And if you want to or not, doesn't really matter. Melanie, thank you. Jabir, thank you. Just checking to see if there are any last minute questions. This should make you want to paint. And feel free to just check out Adobe Fresco, by the way, because we just unlocked the ability for you to produce high-res work from the free version, which is really fun. And by the way, like how I even put this together is I did this all in pieces, by the way, because look, let's open up this fox. Here's this fox that I created. What did I do? I just made it a layer and composited it right in here. So each one is painted separately, and then I would make it as part of the composite for my scene because I worked on it, you know, bit by bit. Thanks, Steve, for hanging out with me. Melanie, yeah, you should make a holiday card. Feel free, by the way, you could always, there's enough brushes out there that you don't have to make your own, too, especially when it comes to, like, Fresco, just so you know. There's some leafy lines. There's a leafy line one that's really cool, so use that. And thanks for hanging out. I'll be respectful of your time. I don't mean to just go on, but you get the idea. Thanks for hanging out with me, remember? Call your mom, drink lots of water. Make sure you get enough sleep, too. And give somebody a hug, right? Because they probably need it. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day or evening or night or morning, and we'll talk.